What's good, everybody? Rob Stats Guerrera here with you live from Radio Row with Chase Sr. from the 49ers Report for Chat Sports. Chase, thanks for a few minutes.
So glad to connect with you, finally meet you. Got a lot of respect for how you've built your YouTube channel into what it is right now, and it's always good to connect with other content creators. Wow. That's a new hip term that we use nowadays.
Yes, content creators. I mean, well, thank you first of all, but let's be honest. I don't have one of those fancy, shiny 100,000 subscriber plaques like you do.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey covering the Niners. I took this job at Chat Sports in 2021, so this is my third season on the beat, so to speak, and what a run it's been for San Francisco since I started covering this team on a daily basis on the 49ers Report. They start 3-5 in 2021 with Jimmy Garoppolo. They make the NFC Championship game. They lose that 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. Last year, they end the season on that torrid run, and then unfortunately Brock Purdy gets hurt in the NFC Championship game. This year, they get over that hump, but it took overcoming a 17-point deficit. Now we're in Las Vegas covering the Niners in the Super Bowl in that quest for 6, and if they get that 6th Lombardi trophy, they tie the Pittsburgh Steelers, New England Patriots for the most rings of all time. What an incredible run, what an incredible organization, and hopefully it caps off with the Super Bowl championship.
And they already have the most postseason wins of any franchise.
Yep.
So that would be a nice little cherry on top of the sundae,
no
for
doubt.
Sure. But the big story of the day here, first day in Las Vegas, the practice field situation.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
They took grass, for anyone that doesn't know, they took grass and they put it on top of the turf field at UNLV a week ago, and they said, go practice on that, it'll be cool. And it's a disaster, apparently.
Yeah, this is a joke. We're talking about Super Bowl 58. We're in Las Vegas. This is the biggest sporting event of the year. And how do you have just something put together so sloppily where you have sod on top of an artificial surface where there's seams in it? It's been described as a sponge. Matt Mayoko, NBC Sports Bay Area, with the report that it almost got to the point where it was so bad where San Francisco almost did media night on Monday. Then they were thinking about flying back to Santa Clara to practice there the rest of the week. That's not what Super Bowl is all about. It's about media availability. It's about the process. It's about Super Bowl Radio Row. It's about that exposure. It's about, for the team, the players, experiencing something that they might not ever experience again. And for those 2019 members who lost to the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54, it's about getting back here and exacting revenge. And when you think about football, Rob, like, it's so routine oriented, especially a week like this week where there's media night on Monday, there's availability on Tuesday, availability on Thursday, and you have to have all these media obligations all throughout the week. And now your practice field is to a point where it's almost unpracticable. I'm making up a word, but it's that bad. And now the Niners, if they don't want to practice there because of the field conditions, they might have to go to the Raiders practice facility where the Chiefs are set to practice, and then they have to change their entire practice routine throughout this week. And then lastly, just from a strategical matchup standpoint, the way to beat Patrick Mahomes, we saw it in Super Bowl 55. Tampa Bay Buccaneers got 10 pressures on Mahomes, 3 sacks. They had the most quarterback pressures on Mahomes in the history of the Super Bowl. Now, I know that this Niners defensive line has been down as far as generating a pass rush, but that is considered to be a strength of this team. And if they are to win this game, they have to have Patrick Mahomes under siege, running for his life like he was in Super Bowl 55. And now these field conditions might take away from one of the Niners' strengths with the field conditions being sloppy. And this comes after last year when the NFL at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, decided to experiment with a new grass surface for the first time in the history of the Super Bowl. And the Philadelphia Eagles went into that game against Mahomes, 70 sacks in the NFL, 15 more than any team. They couldn't find footing all throughout that game, and Mahomes was sitting in a clean pocket because edge rushers and defensive linemen were slipping because they couldn't get the necessary footing to generate a pass rush or even get a push. So it's unfortunate that this has happened. Luckily, it's early in the week, and hopefully things get figured out to a point where San Francisco can have a normal practice schedule just like Kansas City has been able to have.
Super Bowl, perfect time to experiment with stuff.
It's ridiculous.
Really the first time you want to do anything. It's unbelievable. I'm fascinated to see what Kyle Shanahan and the Niners say tonight. This is the story of the night on the biggest media session that the teams are going to have. And I don't know how you play it if you're Kyle Shanahan. Do you just come out, hammer the league? Maybe there's repercussions if that happens, who knows? Or do you tell everybody, hey, just don't mention it, you know, we're doing the best we can, whatever, and let Jed York deal with it. I'm fascinated to see how much they say and what they say tonight.
Yeah, the thing, too, that's interesting is that we know that Monday opening night, media night, is supposed to be the fun night where you have a lot of these international reporters that come to an event like this year in Las Vegas, and they ask funny questions. But now we're going to have to ask serious questions about the practice surface. This isn't something that we should be talking about in the lead up to the Super Bowl. We should be talking about a fantastic matchup between Kansas City and San Francisco. Kansas City playing in its 4th Super Bowl in the last 5 years. San Francisco, 3 straight NFC championships, 4 in the last 5, looking to win their 6th Lombardi trophy against a team that they lost to in Super Bowl 54. Instead, we're talking about a practice surface. So if I'm Kyle Shanahan, it'd be hard for me to hold back. I like to think of myself as an authentic guy who's going to try to spit what I feel, what's on my mind. My question would just be, this is the Super Bowl. How does this happen with something that was so avoidable? That's my thing.
It seems like they just don't care at times.
Yeah.
It's incredibly frustrating.
It's like you care about your house, right? And you have this pristine yard and you want to keep it that way. It's like going out and hiring a landscaping crew that you see a flyer on a post and you don't know any of the work that they've done. You're like, oh, let me just hire this landscaping crew. They listed their number. Let's see what they can do. And then they mess up their entire yard.
It's crazy to say, but like that is exactly what's happening. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. So we'll see how the Niners handle it tonight. Bigger picture, which 49er, member of the organization, anywhere you want to go, stands to benefit the most from a Super Bowl victory?
I think it's Kyle Shanahan. I think if Kyle Shanahan wins after the 28-3 debacle when he was the Falcons offensive coordinator, the 10-point Super Bowl loss to Kansas City in 2019, and the 10-point loss in the NFC Championship game against the Rams, that's the dark cloud that's hovering over Kyle Shanahan's head. And a reason why I like San Francisco in this game, I think they're the better all-around team. I think they're the deeper all-around team. I think they have more premier players. I think this Chiefs offense is the worst that it's been in the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era. But it also just feels like the Niners' year. You have this collection of core prime players who are all really special. We're talking about multiple future Hall of Famers, all pros and Pro Bowlers who have been on the precipice of winning a Super Bowl. They've been on the precipice of getting back to the Super Bowl with those NFC Championship game defeats. And they've been able to exercise some of their demons with Kyle Shanahan. 0-30 when trailing by 5 or more in the 4th quarter. He's able to cross that off with that comeback victory against Green Bay, and then down 17 points against a really, really good Detroit Lions team that I think is really well coached. I think Dan Campbell was a little bit overly aggressive, and that costs Detroit the game, but that's a really talented ball club in Detroit, and you come back from 17. And now, if Kyle Shanahan can win, it gives him a victory over Andy Reid, who's looked at as maybe the best offensive mind ever at the head coaching spot, over Patrick Mahomes. But then Kyle Shanahan, his fingerprints for his offense are sprinkled across the entire National Football League. His coaching tree is really impressive. We saw what happened with Sean McVay when he won the Super Bowl. I think Kyle Shanahan has a more impressive resume than Sean McVay. And he's one of those creative, innovative offensive minds where if he wins, I think you can put him up there as one of the most influential offensive minds in the history of football, especially with the history with his dad.
I think there's a lot of people out there that think that he's gotten too much praise too quickly for somebody that hasn't won a Super Bowl and that has had some of the losses in the playoffs that he has had. So I agree with you. If he gets one, he is looked at in a completely different light. And obviously we'll see on Sunday if he can get it done. Chase, thank you so much. Tell everybody about the 49ers Report at Chat Sports, where they can find you and what you guys have going on. Yeah,
49ers Report on YouTube, 117,000 subscribers. We provide the faithful with shows, live shows, watch parties, videos every single day. Short form content, long form content. You can check it out. Largest independently run Niners channel on YouTube. And big fan of what you've been doing, so keep it up, and been tapping into what you've been doing for quite some time now.
I appreciate it, Chase. Thanks.
Of course.